Hi guys, it's Monday and this is Steph and this is Steph's new best friend. His name is Iron Man Mark 1 and he is just fabulous. Wait. Ta-da! And wait for it. He lights up! You just do everything, don't you? But today I'm just going to jump right into my topic because I want to do a quick tutorial on how to make a superhero utility belt because I'm currently in the process of making one anyway, so it seemed like the perfect time to show you all the way that I do it and what might help if you need some help before Halloween because you waited till the last minute or had lots of technical difficulties and now you're stuck a week before trying to make a costume. And for the record, that's totally not what happened to me. So I've noticed with a lot of comic book characters, they don't have a normal belt where like you stick this through and then you go through here and then there's like a flap hanging out. None of them ever seem to have a flap. It just fits perfectly and it doesn't even, a lot of times they don't even have like a buckle, like a regular buckle like this. So you're kind of like, how do I make a belt like that when there's no buckle and they don't have excess belt coming out the other side? That just is ridiculous. Well, if your character has a long cape or a jacket of some type that actually covers the back part of the belt, you can actually be a super huge cheater and just wear the belt backwards. So this is actually what I'm going to be doing with my boyfriend's gambit. He's going to be wearing it here, and that's actually going to be the back, so I can do everything I want to on the front and add the pouches and add a fake buckle right on the front, and you don't have to worry about anyone seeing this ugly thing in the back because you're wearing a jacket or a cape. That's actually the exact way I did my Damien Robin costume and Burt Ward Robin costume. This is my Damien one, and as you can see, the buckle is on the back, and I just spray painted it, and you should never spray paint a belt because it doesn't stay very well. So if you have to make a thicker belt and something this size, like a standard size, won't work, and you still have a cape or something in the back to cover up any awkward things in the back, you can always just make a belt out of craft foam, which I found to be probably the easiest thing to work with. You usually have to have two pieces that you cut out because craft foam usually isn't very long. So I usually just quickly like stitch it together because if you tape it or use anything, you'll end up with an awkward seam. And I find if you sew it together, there usually isn't any awkward seams. That's actually the way I did my Hit Girl belt because as you can see, it's kind of a thick band. It also needs some fixing up. But it just seriously overlaps in the back. Super simple. Velcro. Bam. Done. And you can just cover it with whatever fabric you want to use. So for those of you who don't have a cape or a long jacket to cover the back and you have to have the buckle in the front, and you can't use this buckle for whatever reason, I use one of these. There's a technical term, but they just remind me of seat belts, and this is not a belt, obviously it's a fanny pouch. But it works just the same, especially if you need something like a narrow belt, which I'm going to be using for my Rogue costume in a few days. You can easily just glue a different belt buckle right on top of this, so you can still pinch in the sides and take it off and on, but then you won't have to see the ugly fastener type deal that's in the front. So you just glue it on, done. And for those of you who can't use that way for any reason and can't use a standard belt and you have to make something bigger, I am so sorry because making a belt is a big pain in the ass because I had to make one for my Asuka costume, and don't mind this random loincloth that's attached to it. But the whole belt was made by me. I used interfacing and just covered the whole thing with vinyl, and then I had to buy one of the buckles. And the buckles come obviously with like these little things, but then you have to do all the stupid like little grommets in it and put the hole and then hammer it. If you have a hammer, if you have a little hand thing that does it all, that makes life a lot easier. But for those of us who don't have that, you have to hammer all these in. So now let's just talk about the buckle real quick. I usually make the buckle out of craft foam because it's super simple to use. All you need to do is, if you need a layering effect like how my robin is, there's 3 pieces to it. There's the bottom layer, and then there's a thicker craft foam on top of it, and then one of the thinner craft foam pieces to the R, so that way it has a more 3-dimensional look. And just paint, glue, done. That's also the way I made my Hit Girl belt buckle as well. It's all just cut out craft foam that I painted and just glued on. If you want something a bit more sturdy than craft foam, I suggest Wonderflex, or you can even sandwich the Wonderflex in between 2 layers of craft foam, depending how thick you want your belt buckle to be. Alright, so let's talk pouches, which is probably the most difficult part of making the utility belt, but it's really not that hard. It's just a little time consuming because there's usually a lot of detail involved and precise measuring. There are 2 ways that I normally make a pouch. One is the way that I'm doing my gambit pouch, which is obviously not completed. This is actually all one piece, the front panel, the bottom, and the overlapping top, and then there are 2 side pieces. Or you can do the way I did my Hit Girl pouches, which is good for, I think, more a narrow pouch. See, it's kind of skinnier than the other one. And it's a front piece, a back piece that overlaps to the front, so it's obviously longer. And then we have one long piece that goes all the way around the bottom and the sides. Now, since I'm actually working on the gambit pouches, I have the cutouts for it. So I have the long piece, which I said goes around like that, and then I have the 2 side pieces. So I'm not going to go over measuring how to make the patterns because it really just depends on the pouches you're making. You can do a square one, or you can make them more rounded like I did my little garter belt ones for Ame Kami Robin. It's the exact same concept as this one, but instead of having a square edge here, I just cut this piece rounded. So I'm just going to jump into how to make it step by step. So obviously, after cutting everything out, step 1 is to create a top stitch for all 3 pieces. You don't have to worry about one end of the long one because we'll do that stitch seam later. If you're going to add a decorated top stitch anywhere else on your pouch, like how I did here, there's a nice black top stitch going all the way around. Now would be the time to do that as well. The only thing you really need to do is measure twice your seam. So for example, if you know your seam where you're stitching here is going to be 1/4 inch, then you want your top stitch to be 1/2 inch. See that? Double, double. The next step is, like all things, you're going to sew with front sides together, and you're literally going to sew here and then twist this piece to sew the bottom, more bottom, and then twist it again, and so you're sewing the side. So you obviously have that side attached now, and so now you're just going to do the same thing with the other side piece. And then you'll have something that actually looks like this. Now you're going to have this piece kind of overlapping, and it's still going to have all the raw edges, so you're going to want to just hem that, just do a roll over and just top stitch there. If you don't want like a decorative top stitch like I did on mine, just use the same color thread so it's not as noticeable. If you did the decorative stitch here before, just go right over the top stitch there and hem it along that line. And once you've hemmed that part, you'll obviously want to hem this piece as well. Now depending on your fabric, you might notice that your pouch is a little flimsy. Just see how this one kind of like bubbles and it isn't as smooth as it would like it to be. There's actually a trick to preventing that. It's wonderful and ghetto-tastic, and it's called craft foam. I literally just make 3 pieces, one for both sides and then one for the front. And then I actually like stick it right in here between the seams. And I normally glue it, but I haven't glued it yet, so just bear with me. And ta-da, once you have all 3 of the pieces in there, it looks so much more sturdy now. So obviously different belts have different fasteners. My Hit Girl one snaps, as you can see, open, close, snap. If you don't really care to open it, you can just glue the snap on and it doesn't matter. If you really don't care about opening it, you could just glue it shut and it'll look pretty like that forever. But once you've figured out a way to fasten your pouch, you're pretty much done with the pouch. So now all you need to do is attach the pouch. I usually just glue it straight to the belt. It just makes things a lot easier. You can also do what I did with my Oscar pouch and put a little loopy thing right on the back so it'll just go into the belt. And now you're really done! Congratulations! So I hope that tutorial helped. If you have any questions about it, go ahead and ask in the comments below. Unless you're asking me to make something for you or pattern something for you, then no. I will also post good questions or frequently asked questions in the description below. So if you have a question, make sure to check those out first in case I've already answered it. That being said, make sure to check out the other awesome geeks this week. Like, subscribe, and good luck on making all of your own Halloween costumes.